Hello, I'm Rick Harp, host of APTN News Brief, a daily podcast version of the nightly broadcast of APTN National News. Available on all major podcast platforms, APTN News Brief is your quick way to hear the headlines every weekday morning. Learn more at aptnnews.ca/podcasts.
We are APTN Investigates. On this episode,
I'm Kenneth Jackson. Judges have called a small band office in British Columbia unfit, abusive, vexatious, purposefully repugnant, and motivated by their own self-interest. Find out why in Peter's Indian Problem. Peter's First Nation, a small community of 15 homes, nestled along the shore of the Fraser River. For centuries, its people fished for salmon, weave baskets from the roots and bark of cedar trees. It was once rich in culture. But those days are largely gone. It's now known for the number of times its band council has been to court and lost.
That was my home. And I just feel like I'm an outsider, like I don't belong. And
there's a reason for that. Peter's council unlawfully denies band membership, and has kept one side of the family in power for nearly 4 decades.
I was part of this family and part of this band, and now all these people that are on the band are saying, no, you can't come back.
With control of membership, the 3-member council has predicted its elections. Those who control the band office control the money, and business is booming, thanks to the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
We knew a lot of discrepancies were happening during the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and so that became our main focus, where as the evidence collected, chief and council they were writing blank checks for themselves.
It's been proven in court that council misused the band's money on themselves, and the courts now want to know by exactly how much. The small council is led by these two. That's Councillor Victoria Peters on the left, with Chief Norma Webb. The sisters have been in power together since 2007. Look at their shirts. Our children, our elders, our families. I guess that depends on what side of the family you fall on, because they both continue to fight elders in court over membership. It's like a page out of Canada's colonial playbook. If Canada tried to rid itself of its so-called Indian problem, Peters has continued on with the work. I first began telling the story of Peter's First Nation 7 years ago. Layer by layer, we looked at how a community so small could have so many problems. I reported on the membership issues in the community and in the courts. We followed the money and opened the books, uncovering that of the money doled out to membership, more than 90% went to those who voted to keep the same council in power during a time when just 2 votes would have changed the outcome of elections. A lot has happened since I was last here, and my return begins at the home of Leah Peters.
Hey Leah, good to see you again. Thanks for having us here.
She's the daughter of Edward Peters. It was Edward who first took me around the community in 2017, and I promised him to return one day.
Dad was family to everybody. Everyone loved him. He had that tough personality, but he was just a sweetheart. He was gentle, he loved everybody. It was his joking personality which got everybody's attention, made you feel comfortable. It's anyone he met and just talked to was attached. He was known as Mr. Ed, and he was just everybody's friend. Dad didn't really have enemies.
Edward passed away in 2019 and was the oldest recognized member of Peters at the time. However, neither his wife or children were ever accepted as members. It put a hurt in him that lasted until his last breath.
Every time I go to a meeting now, it's tell them I just like to see it. I want it to be fair. I want everybody to have a chance at life, you know. It's got to be fair.
He wanted to pass land along to his daughters, but the rules only allow members to have land. So Edward felt his family line was being extinguished.
There's not a lot that ever angered Dad, but this did. I think it's because it made him feel helpless. He couldn't fix it. He couldn't. They had complete control. He couldn't do anything.
It's not like Leah and her family were strangers. She lived at Peters for the first 17 years of her life. She caught fish here. She ate the blackberries. The land and water were hers.
We used to disappear for hours. Mom and Dad never worried. They knew where we were. We had a dog. We'd walk down the end of the reserve to visit our cousins. We'd sleepovers. It was just home. It was just safe, and it was like natural. It was just where we're from. It's who I am. It's always been who I am.
Edward's fight for fairness didn't die with him. He made sure of that by filing a human rights complaint against Peters Band Council before he passed away. The complaint lives on through his daughters and alleges Peters discriminated against him. The person handling Edward's human rights complaint is this man. If he doesn't look like a lawyer, it's because he's not. He's a logger.
I don't have a license to practice law. I'm not a paralegal. I've never had any training to do it.
The tribunal allows for regular citizens to represent others on their behalf. And if the devil is in the details, his name is Darryl Kipp.
In this instance, I took those dusty boxes of documents and I let them lead me to the thesis. So I let them lead me to the issues. And they screamed at me. By the time I was done, I was obsessed and I needed to see it through.
Darryl learned the ropes playing a part in helping Guy Peters, Amber Reagan, and Brendan Engstrom eventually all become band members after Darryl's partner, Samantha Peters, found a lawyer to challenge their rejected membership applications. It took several court rulings led by the largely pro bono work of Carrie Brooks of JFK Law in Vancouver before council was finally ordered to make them members.
When the three applicants challenged that decision in federal court, Justice Fothergill at the time in 2018 found that band council had only given reasons after the fact and that they had concocted those reasons to justify denying the membership.
Ruling after ruling, you can see the judges beginning to see through the council. Unreasonable and procedurally unfair. Council has acted unlawfully, unfairly, and in bad faith. Council has repeatedly shown itself to be unfit to decide these matters, abusive, vexatious. But there were still another 63 people denied membership in 2012. Their applications were collected and submitted by Samantha, a band member since birth. It was a fight started by her late grandmother, Minnie Peters, and then by her mom, Roberta Peters, who has also passed. Samantha sat at this table interviewing most of her exiled family. More than a decade later, Samantha reflects on what hurt the most in not being able to bring her family home.
When you see the treatment of elders when it comes to membership issues and so forth, and they're denied or they're disadvantaged or, they're just outright shut out, that just totally goes against our own teaching. That's not the way of our people.
One of the elders Samantha tried to help was Eva May Nelson. Eva was born on the reserve in 1933. Her father was chief. It's hard to imagine anyone belonging to Peters more than Eva.
Her birth certificate says the Indian name of the reserve. She's not recognized as an elder. Her family's not recognized. Her kids aren't recognized. Nobody in their family is a member of the band.
Eva passed in 2015, denied her birthright. Her son Leonard died a few years later. They aren't the only ones who died wanting to come home. Judy Peters also applied several times. This is her handwritten application to council in 1996.
I, Judy Peters, am a direct descendant to Peters via Robert W. Peters. The chief's children are all my cousins. We are all family. My future lies in your hands.
She was denied again in 2012 and died broke on the streets of Chilliwack in 2021 at the age of 57.
Just all kinds of things that are available to them, to these individual families that potentially could make their life better if they were only accepted, right? And that's the hard part is watching and seeing family members, disadvantaged because they're not able to take part in the community.
That's tough, eh?
It is.
For Leah Peters, it means living on the other side of the Fraser River, in exile from her traditional homelands. Her father's dying wish was to see his family name restored and legacy live on. It's a promise that Leah aims to keep.
That's my home. I may live here, and this is where my family's with my husband, but that's my home. That's where I'm from. That's where I lived my entire life. When I die, that's where I'm going to be buried. It's with my dad, my grandparents. It's our legacy.
Just greed. Just got to be greed. They want to keep the membership the way it is, so they got control. We don't have a chance with them, eh?
APTN presents a captivating journey into the heart of the North with our latest podcast, The Place That Thaws.
Some areas that used to be safe are no longer safe.
Hosted by me, Danielle Parody. Join us as we uncover the intricacies of life on a changing coast. Subscribe and listen to The Place That Thaws.
This is known as Peters Pit. It's a gravel pit and temporary dumping ground for the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. It cuts narrowly between the Fraser River and Peters Road. This is how it used to look in 2017. It was pristine, a little slice of heaven. I was told stories of how the river rises during spawning season, and community members rescue fish trapped in small pools as it recedes. At least they used to. The pipeline expansion brought the promise of a lot of money with it, and Peters Council capitalized on the boon, making millions of dollars through various contracts since 2014. One band member has been trying to keep tabs on that money. It hasn't been easy for Andrew Janelle. It's not just that he spent $250,000 of his own money in legal fees. Andrew also used to work for council, and is the godfather of Councillor Victoria Peters' children. We met up with him in Chilliwack.
We knew a lot of discrepancies were happening during the Trans Mountain Pipeline. And so that became our main focus, where as the evidence collected, chief and council were, they were writing blank checks for themselves and paying themselves for meetings and, bonuses and everything else. And that became our focus.
APTN first reported on those bonuses in 2017. We obtained internal emails showing council consulted with a lawyer on what to call payments taken from the pipeline money. But Andrew knew that was just the tip of the iceberg and had already filed a lawsuit against council for breaching its fiduciary duty to the band.
That basically means, the band revenue belongs to the membership, and the band council as fiduciaries, their obligation is to protect that money and use that money in the best interests of the members themselves. So not for the use of the band council, paying themselves and doing whatever they want with it, because it is not legally their money.
Andrew won his case in 2022. He proved that Councillor Victoria Peters had at least 6 band jobs. She was the band's community health representative, National Native Alcohol and Drug Abuse Program worker, health director, band manager, bookkeeper, and social worker.
She actually hired herself for job positions, and then those job positions hired herself for being her assistant to that job, or being the underling that works for that managerial job underneath.
The court ordered Victoria, Chief Norma Webb, and former councillor Leanne Peters to pay punitive damages of $85,000 because their actions were purposefully repugnant and motivated by their own self-interest. APTN also reported on council's questionable use of federal funds in 2017. Peters' financial ledgers revealed a large portion of the money went to Victoria Peters over a 2-year period beginning in 2013. A financial review by KPMG found nearly $400,000 worth of ineligible and unsupported expenditures.
One of the things that people are going to ask is, why hasn't Victoria Peters or Norma Webb been arrested for the money they've taken?
Chief and counsel of Peters Band actually sued the government of British Columbia and the Attorney General's office and said, hey, all this evidence of wrongdoing is stolen from the band office, and if you don't turn them back over, we're going to take you to court and get damages and everything like that. And so they turned all the evidence back over to the band council with a note that says, I hope this concludes this, and the RCMP file has been closed.
It came as a shock at the time, but Andrew knew there was more work to be done.
They would make dried salmon. They had racks there that they would fish, and she did all the prep work. They did the fishing right there. And
like helping rejected elders file human rights complaints against the council. That includes Carol Raymond. She was born a member of Peters, but when she married a white man, she was stripped of her status by Canada. That's why she was originally removed from the band list. Carol got her status back in 1987, and since then, council has denied all of her membership applications.
I was part of this family and part of this band, and now all these people that are on the band are saying, no, you can't come back. I don't want their land, I don't want their property, I want my membership, my identity. Like, I'm 80 now, and how many more years is this going to go on?
Her complaint was successful, and Peters was ordered to pay Carol and 3 other elders more than $1 million in disbursement money they had missed out on while in exile. Council quickly filed for a judicial review of the tribunal's decision in federal court. Another court fight against elders with a clear birthright to Peters.
You kind of feel again, was it worth it? And it wasn't I wasn't fighting for financial gain. I was fighting for myself, my identity, just to be. And I'm okay if I don't think about it. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. It's
yeah.
okay. It's okay.
I have you think this is supposed to be family. Mm-hmm. Like they're supposed to be cousins. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, who are they really? How could people
the lengths that they'll go to
exactly
exclude the 5 elders from their rightfully entitled to be members, and for them to go to the lengths that they've gone to exclude all 5 in any way that they can.
After speaking with Carol, I head back to Peters First Nation. I already know Council's reasons for denying membership. Victoria and Norma told the court it didn't want to share pipeline revenue or land. It doesn't get any clearer than that. But after all these years and all the court losses, why don't they just give up?
Hi. I'm a reporter from APTN, and I wanted to introduce myself to the chief. She's in a meeting right now?
Yeah, they're in a big meeting, yes.
Yeah. It wouldn't take too long. Do you know when this is going to be over?
Probably 1.
Okay.
Okay.
I can come back at 1.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
It's a really sad state of affairs to see the council carry on the way that they feel that they need to carry on this fight and fight their own people. It's really sad.
Now the door's locked, and no one's coming to the door. I don't understand it. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, I'm sorry. There's no comments.
No comment? They don't want to talk?
No, they don't.
You were very kind to me. I appreciate your
no problem.
Your professionalism.
How do you convince them otherwise?
Thank you for your time. Take care.
Our plan was to get everything we needed out of the chief and council, the evidence in this regard, and at that point, we will be going to Canada.
They wouldn't come to the door. They're all in there. Chief Norma Webb, I saw her. She's in there. They won't come to the door. They have no comment. They've lost court case after court case after court case.
Now that it's been out, especially through the court, people are like shaking their heads. They didn't know it was like that. They had no idea.
And still, they retreat to their band office, lock the door was locked this time, and won't come see me. They won't address this. We tried.
Hi, I'm Dennis Ward, host of Face to Face. Coming up on our next episode, I'll be sitting down with Carrie Swanson, the CEO of the Indigenous Screen Office. We'll be discussing the excitement and big changes that have been happening on the screen and what stable funding will mean for future projects. Tune in Tuesday on APTN or listen to the Face to Face podcast. Download and subscribe on your favorite player.
If you'd like to hear more from Investigates, visit aptnnews.ca/podcasts. You can watch APTN Investigates every Friday on APTN. Visit us on social media and catch up on our stories at aptnnews.ca, the APTN News YouTube channel, and the APTN News app. The Investigates team includes reporters Brittany Guillot, Christopher Reed, and Kenneth Jackson, and video journalists Rob Smith and Tom Fenario. I'm Josh Grummett, and I'm an associate producer for the show. Our producer is Colin Crozier, and our executive producer is Paul Barnsley. Members of the APTN National News team also contribute to many of our stories. Once again, thanks for listening.
I'm Kathleen Martins, a reporter with APTN News. Homeless, houseless, shelterless people, they aren't hard to find in Winnipeg. They're on the sidewalks, in bus shelters, and down alleyways. They're living in tents and squatting in empty buildings. They're even sleeping in abandoned cars. But who are they? Hear their stories in my new 5-part podcast called Our Relatives. Listen on your favorite player.